Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
If you use Amazon to do any online shopping, use the black banner at davidpakman.com. Just click it before you do your shopping, and then you'll actually send 7% of your purchase to the David Pakman Show. It's a great free way to support the show. You can also support us by becoming a David Pakman Show member, made possible in part by liberalbias.com. As you know, Lewis, as we discussed earlier, liberal bias is everywhere. You can find it in polls, statistics, facts are even liberally biased. Make sure you're educated about all sorts of liberal bias by checking out liberalbias.com.
You can also support the show by running around and telling everybody about David Pakman.
Well, or about your incredible production skills.
Well, I think most people already know about that.
Yeah, they kind of speak for themselves.
Right.
Today's new David Pakman Show member of the day, Douglas Rackow. Douglas Rackow, it's great to have Douglas on. I don't know if Douglas goes by Doug or if he goes by the full Douglas name.
Or Dougie, or D.
Or it could be any number of things, but I will go with his formal name, Douglas. And it's great to have him aboard, as well as every other David Pakman Show member. Mitt Romney in the past has said that Roe versus Wade should actually be reversed. He said, my view is that the Supreme Court should reverse Roe v. Wade and send back to the states the responsibility for deciding whether abortion should be legal or not. He also called it, on his campaign website, a case of blatant judicial activism. And he promised to appoint judges that will follow the law and the Constitution when asked about Roe v. Wade. It certainly seems to imply that he would like to see Roe v. Wade overturned and that he would hire judges that he thinks might actually do that. Putting that aside for a second, putting reality aside for a second, Norm Coleman former Senator Norm Coleman showed up, talked to a bunch of Jews who they're trying to convince to vote for Mitt Romney. They probably aren't going to. The Jewish vote is going overwhelmingly to President Obama, and said, no, there's no risk of overturning Roe v. Wade. This is what Norm Coleman had to say. Take a listen.
First of all, for those who care, you got to decide what's important right now, what's going to impact you right now. The reality is choice is an issue for a lot of people, an important issue. President Bush was president 8 years. Roe v. Wade wasn't reversed. We had two Supreme Court choice picks. Roe v. Wade wasn't reversed. It's not going to be reversed. Now we have fights over the edges on that. Parental notification, partial birth.
So this is fascinating. He's basically saying, listen, George W. Bush was against abortion. He was in 8 years, and Roe v. Wade wasn't overturned. So what's actually worse here? Is he saying Mitt Romney is lying about wanting to overturn Roe v. Wade? Or is he saying Mitt Romney is simply going to be ineffective at making the changes he believes in? In other words, he would like to overturn it, but come on, he's not going to be able to do it. Either way, it's pretty bad.
It seems like what's going on here is that Roe v. Wade will not be overturned regardless of Romney's point of view on it.
I don't know.
No,
well,
that's not
I'm
true
not
at
sure
all.
about that. Hold. Let's back up a second. If Mitt Romney is able to appoint one or two conservative Supreme Court justices, Roe v. Wade is absolutely on the table.
It's on the table. Yeah, it doesn't mean it will be overturned. I mean, like he said, even in the Bush era, it was not overturned.
Natan?
It's pretty clear that the only reason why Norm Coleman's statement is factually true is because Bill Clinton was president and selected a couple of liberal justices to balance the court 5-4. If the court were 6-3, you wouldn't have had that extra swing vote in Anthony Kennedy potentially, and you probably would have seen Roe v. Wade overturned. Scalia and Thomas are waiting to overturn it, and I think Alito and Roberts might as well. So if you have Romney replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg with a conservative, you'll probably see Roe v. Wade overturned.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis, I have a sense that you have the same sense that I have of the sense others have of their sense of Mitt Romney's Supreme Court justices.
Wow.
Let me back up. In other words, I think people are incorrectly ignoring the effect that the next president, whether it's another 4 years for President Obama or 4 years for Mitt Romney, would have on the Supreme Court, and the effect that that could have on what we now consider to be just kind of part of American legal framework, the structure. I think you're not giving enough consideration to that, to the real changes that we could see there.
Is it possible? I think it is, but at the same time, I think there are plenty of justices currently who, I'm not going to make any wild claims. I'm not going to make any. I'm just going to say I think it's unlikely either way that it will be overturned.
Is it more likely if it's Mitt Romney?
More likely, yes.
So let's deal in what is more incremental.
More